Everyone, back to you into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 8 to 10 days in today's video. And this takes us to the very end of the month, takes us to the last day of May. It looks like we're going to be keeping the weather we've had through most of the month, really, which is reasonably cool weather. And fairly changeable as well. Now, I think we're going to get a few days of drier weather early next week, but then it probably all goes downhill again later on next week. So overall, not too bad. It's never been too bad at all, really, through this May. It's been okay. It's just been generally sort of gently unsettled, if you like, with a few days that have been a little bit wetter, such as we had earlier in the week. But yeah, I think that's sort of pattern we're keeping up to the end of the month. But no real sign of high pressure building in definitively to bring us summer just yet. So we'll have a look at the charts in a moment before I go on with that. Just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all pages at GazWizards.com. Have a browse with widgets. Any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You'll be able to go off and read the article. Thanks so much for doing that. There's also a video article page where you open out in the content. When you watch them, they'll close back up again. Thanks for getting involved. Thanks for doing that. Helps pay for the website. So yeah, thanks for doing that. Right, we're going to start off with the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts. We've got the ECMWF here on the left. And the GFS is over on the right of the screen as you're looking at it. 500 millibars, 80 bars a beat is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure are being moved round by the jet stream. Running above. These are mean flow charts for 8 to 10 days time. So this takes us to the very end of May. And of course red extrapolates to high pressure and blue to low pressure. So you can see what's going on. I've got quite a strong ridge of high pressure in the central part of the Atlantic. Sort of northerly displaced Azores High, really, and it stretches from sort of Newfoundland, the northeastern coast of America, through the Atlantic, and then going down towards Spain and Portugal. And have the blue colours indicate low pressure sitting up to the north and the northwest, and the tight lines in between indicate still quite a strong jet stream running across the Atlantic and into the UK like that. So the Azores High, the fact that it's fairly intense and northerly displaced, that would normally be a pretty good sign for generating quite a strong ridge and quite a warm pattern with the high pressure sort of building in. Most of our warm summers occur when the Azores High is intense and northerly displaced, such as we're seeing here. It's just really the strength of the jet stream, I think, that is stopping that Azores High throwing the ridge into the British Isles. It's still early though, so with the Azores High so intense and northerly displaced as it is, I don't think we can rule out getting some prolonged dry and warm weather at some point in the next few weeks, but quite when it happens we'll have to wait and see. And of course we'll know more when we do the June month-ahead broadcast what the fate of June is going to be at the start of the new month. The GFS is very similar with the high pressure there through the central part of the Atlantic. Low pressure is up to the north and northwest of the country, and again quite a strong jet stream running across the Atlantic through the UK, rather like that. So it keeps us sort of unsettled. It keeps us in the driest conditions down to the south and the southwest, but wettest conditions up to the north and the northwest, and just generally the sort of pattern that we've had through most of May. And with the flow coming from a northwesterly direction, from a northerly point of the Atlantic, of course temperatures are not going to be particularly inspiring. Having said that, we're going to get a few days of warmer weather. Well, it's starting today, but it'll really be tomorrow and into Saturday. But I think you notice it down in the south where temperatures could be sort of up to the upper teens Celsius, maybe even into the low 20s, but I don't think it'll last more than a few days. As we go into next week, we're going to see the temperatures dropping back again. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line here, the thick red line, is the 30-year temperature average. You can see that we're going above average over the next few days. Not really warm, but we are going a little bit above average over the next 2 or 3 days. And then we drop that below the red line again as we go through into the start of next week. And then we sort of hover around the 30-year average through to the end of the month. This is the 1st of June, just over here. And at that point, we're sort of around average, maybe even trending a little bit below Now, right at the very end of the ensemble, and this is in the unreliable time frame of the GFS model, of course, we do find a bit of evidence that the ensembles are beginning to pick up. So there is a little bit of a warming trend there as we go through sort of to the end of the first week of June. Just perhaps the first indications that something is beginning to happen in terms maybe of building that ridge from the Azores into the country and getting a sustained spell of warmer and drier weather. JMA Friday tomorrow will be very interesting to see what that is showing for June. Now the precipitation spikes show that we're going to be bringing fairly regular bands of showery rain through. Again, as we've had through the whole of May, really, no very wet weather, no washout, no flooding to be a concern. Just sort of gently unsettled conditions through the ensemble. So you see we get these regular spikes in the precipitation part of the ensemble. Again, they're not desperately wet by any means, so we're not going to have to worry about flooding. Just bring bands of showery rain through periodically in what is overall a gently sort of unsettled weather pattern. The temperature anomaly comes out a bit cooler than average, so again it's looking very likely that May 2015 is going to be our first colder than average month since I think it was August 2014 that we last got a colder than average month. It's going to be close to one thing, but I think we probably, once we take into account downward corrections that we usually get with the central temperature, I think we will probably pull that off. So a cooler than average week coming up from the 21st of May to 29th. That will encompass some warm weather as we saw over the weekend, particularly tomorrow and probably again on Saturday. The precipitation anomaly comes out a bit wetter than average in the north, a bit drier than average in the south. Again, this is just showing us that we've got that ridge down to the southwest, quite a strong area of high pressure from the Azores, keeping southern parts of the country driest, not totally dry, with the low pressure up here, and again the jet stream is running through rather like that. So the north gets the wettest weather, the south gets the driest conditions, but there will, even in the south, be some bands of rain coming through at times, albeit rather showery. This is the Startic Pressure Chart from the GFS model for Monday, Bank Holiday Monday. By the way, I'll be doing the last update for the Bank Holiday weekend on the events page this evening, so come back to that this evening to see what's going on for the Bank Holiday weekend. But anyway, this is Bank Holiday Monday's chart, and just a good reflection of the charts that I've been looking at. Really, the high pressure is strong at 1,035 millibars down around the Azores, probably a bit further north, displaced a little bit further north than you would expect as well. So that looks quite good, and you would think that's going to be building in to give us a sustained spell of dry weather. But of course, we've got all this low pressure up to the north and quite a strong jet stream indicated by these isobars coming across the Atlantic, and that's preventing this high pressure from the Azores building into the UK properly. So that takes us through into the start of next week. Again, the high pressure down to the west and the southwest, the low pressure up to the north, keeps the north most unsettled, and we stay like that into Wednesday as well. So no great change in the weather pattern over the next few days. It probably going to leave you struggling with things to talk about, actually. As we go through to the end of next week, those signs of a bit of a change, high pressure begin to pull back into the central part of the Atlantic then, allowing these areas of low pressure with the jet stream to start to push in. So probably Thursday, Friday could turn more unsettled actually, with some bands of rain coming across the country. That's quite cool there again as well. If you follow the isobars back, the areas originating from sort of Greenland, Iceland, so pretty cool conditions coming through at the end of next week. Second half next week will be cooler and more unsettled. That takes us into the weekend, the final weekend of May. So we go up to day 10, setting the 31st of May, and again low pressure is sort of around the country. Azores high has pulled back into the middle part of the Atlantic and ridging up towards Newfoundland, and that's allowing these areas of low pressure to attack us from the northwest. So it probably probably deteriorates actually in the second half of next week and through into the final weekend of May. That's for GFS. The East End is very similar. Here we are on Bank Holiday Monday. High pressure down to southwest, low pressure up to the north, bringing down this west to northwesterly flow. as we go through the first half of next week. Very little change with that overall pattern, so it implies that the south should get quite a few days of dry weather, I would have thought. Actually, not going to be too bad at all down in the south, always more settled up in the north, and temperatures will be quite modest as well. And then the east and the earth is seeing this change later on next week as the high pressure pulls back into the middle part of the Atlantic and allows these areas of low pressure to come down from the north-northwest. So Thursday, Friday next week looks like the most unsettled days of the week, with more showers or longer spells of rain, and with the winds, the isobars going up to the northwest, it will be really quite cool as well. Day 10, Sunday 31st of May, perhaps just signs that the Azores is trying to ridge in across the country, although still looking pretty buoyant in the Atlantic in terms of the jet stream, these areas of low pressure. So I have to question how long this ridge would last. It would probably be flattened off again within a few days. But as I say, the Azores High is in a reasonable position actually for generating quite a strong ridge. So I wouldn't be all that surprised if we did build a big area of high pressure into the country at some point through the early part of June, and possibly set up quite a dry and warm spell, maybe lasting for a week or two. So we're just going to have to wait and see whether that does come up. But I wouldn't be that surprised because of the northerly displacement of the Azores High if that happened. Finally, the GM, all very similar. A little bit more unsettled actually for Bank Holiday Monday. This will be bringing showers across many parts of the country. But it's the same broad pattern with the high pressure to the west and southwest, low pressure up to the north through the first half of next week. And then same idea in the second half of next week, the high pressure pulls out into the central part of the Atlantic, allows these areas of low pressure to come down from the northwest. We end up on day 10, however, with signs of a change. High pressure on this run is building over Scandinavia, starting to block off the Atlantic. Now, I'm not sure quite where that's going, and the GM is always a little bit different, so probably best to leave that one alone, actually. But of course, it's a possibility that high pressure might build over Scandinavia, and we might break out of this sort of west-northwesterly pattern that way by turning winds into the east, and that could bring some warm air up from the continent. But to sum it all up, really, there's no great change coming up through to the end of May by the look of it. We're going to be remaining with this pattern that we had through most of the month of high pressure to the west and the southwest, low pressure to the north, and a stronger jet stream than you would expect at this time of year, feeding in showery bands of rain periodically, but also with plenty of dry weather down in the south and the southwest of the country. Probably turns more generally unsettled later on next week, and temperatures always on the coolest side, although we are going to have 1 or 2 days of warmer weather at the end of this week and in the start of next week. So that's how it's looking. No great change at this stage, and we're going to be looking into June to get a proper spell of summer weather. Now, it's JMA Friday tomorrow, so that'll be very enlightening to see what's happening for June and what may be happening for June. We'll also have a look at the CFSB2 as well tomorrow, so come back for that. But that's all for now, and thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.